Hello, boys and girls. This is your old friend RJ City, and this is the Hollywood Squared Circle, where we recap and review wrestling episodes of non-wrestling shows, and today we are talking about The Adventures of Superman Season 1, Episode 11, entitled No Holds Barred. For those of you who don't know, The Adventures of Superman first aired in 1952 and did 104 episodes over 6 seasons, first in black and white and then in color. The show was sponsored by Kellogg's cereal and was never specifically aired on a network because it was always in syndication from the beginning. Superman was played by George Reeves, who at the age of 45 died under very mysterious circumstances. Nevertheless, the TV show is based on the comics, the radio show, and animated film, so it has all the Superman tropes you would want. It has Kryptonite, Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, the Daily Bugle, but bizarrely, no Lex Luthor. Anyway, on to the episode. A wrestler named Bad News Brannigan, played by non-wrestler Richard Reeves, who has no relation to George Reeves, has put 7 wrestlers in the hospital with a move called the Paralyzer. And then there's this horrible montage of faraway wrestling moves with spinning headlines of another wrestler in the hospital. First of all, the move, the Paralyzer, doesn't really seem to paralyze anyone. It just puts them in a great deal of pain and causes them to move around a lot, number one. And number two, it seems to keep changing. So it's really hard to figure out what the hell the Paralyzer even is. And Bad News Brannigan is managed by crooked manager Mortimer Murray. No good can come from that name. So the Daily Bugle's all like, this is really sketchy. So Perry, the newspaper's editor, hires a college wrestling champion named Wayne Winchester to go there and start investigating what's going on. So Perry, Wayne, Jimmy Olsen, Lois Lane, and Clark Kent are all watching wrestling on the TV. They're watching Bad News Brannigan, and he puts the Paralyzer on another guy and injures him. And this time, the Paralyzer is just a weird pin, like a small package, but for some reason, it really hurts the guy. And Perry's like, okay, Clark and Jimmy, go help Wayne figure this out. So Clark goes down to Murray's gym, and he runs into an old friend who now promotes wrestling shows, and that friend gives Clark 2 tickets to the next show. Then the promoter goes into the gym to talk to Murray, but Superman can see and hear everything because he's fucking Superman, right? And it turns out Murray is blackmailing this promoter by getting Bad News Brannigan to injure all his top stars because Murray wants a bigger cut of the gate. And the promoter's like, oh God, whatever, just please don't use the Paralyzer again. And Murray's like, no, we'll do what we want. Well, now the college wrestler Wayne, he wants to go to the show to get a better look, so Clark gives him the 2 tickets, and then Wayne says, gee, I hope I can ask Lois to go to the show with me, and Clark's all like, what the hell, like, don't you know we're Lois and Clark? Are you familiar with Dean Cain at all? Backstage at the show, Brannigan is all worried because he has to wrestle this guy called the Golden Adonis, and he's worried about being put in the Adonis's airplane spin. Well, it turns out that Murray has been imprisoning this foreign guy named Rom, who's a guy playing brownface, and it's incredibly uncomfortable, and I was not prepared for that at all. Well, it turns out this guy has been teaching Brannigan all these pressure point paralyzer holds. He is their secret weapon. So Rom teaches Brannigan how to get out of the airplane spin literally by just pinching the guy's thigh. I don't know why this was a secret. I guess no one in North American wrestling was pinching anyone before this. And Rom just wants to go home, but Murray's like, no, you're gonna be stuck here for as long as I need you. So Brannigan has the match, pinches the guy's thigh, and of course wins, because it's the Paralyzer. But then Wayne jumps out of the crowd, hops in the ring, hits Brannigan with a dropkick, and challenges him to a match next Friday. Now, the newspaper is pissed that Wayne is wrestling, but Clark is like, no, it's okay. But Lois is now pissed at Clark for letting Wayne wrestle, but Wayne still thinks Clark is jealous of him because Wayne likes Lois. So now Brannigan is all worried about facing Wayne because he's a college wrestler, and Murray's like, don't worry, we'll get Rom to teach you another Paralyzer. And Rom is all chained up in his room, but all of a sudden Superman appears and bends the bars open and gets into Rom's room. Rom has no idea who Superman is and thinks he's a genie, but Superman does not bother correcting him at all and is just totally okay with this guy thinking he's a genie. So Superman tells Rom, show me the new paralyzer hold you're gonna teach Brannigan, and Rom does it because he's like, I can't hurt this guy, genies don't feel pain. So the next morning, Clark and Wayne are doing some good old-fashioned apartment wrestling to try to figure out a counter to this new paralyzer hold. And then Jimmy shows up and they're like, Jimmy, try to put the paralyzer hold on Wayne, and Wayne reverses it and flips him. And they're like, okay, great, you're ready. And then Clark is like, actually, Wayne, you might want to do some exercises to strengthen the areas that could be pinched. Great strategy. So then they have the match, and Brannigan goes for this new paralyzer, but Wayne reverses it and flips him and kicks his ass and wins. Yeah, okay, great. But then Murray's like, that Rom guy double-crossed us, let's kick his ass. Clark hears this, and then he goes to change into his Superman costume, but now he's stopped by his old friend wrestling promoter guy who's like, hey, that was a great clean wrestling match. What if we start promoting honest wrestling? Which tells me that even back then they knew this whole thing was a scam. Anyway, Brannigan is holding Rom's wrist because that's, what he pinches with, so he can't use the paralyzer. He's totally defenseless, and Murray's just beating the shit out of him. But then Superman shows up and starts beating up Brannigan, Murray, and all these other bad guy wrestlers in a fight scene that clearly reveals George Reeves' stunt double. And then Rom is like, you know what? Thanks. I can actually use my pinching powers to heal all these injured wrestlers in the hospital. And Superman's like, oh, great. Well, that's settled. Goodbye. And then Lois, Jimmy, and Perry show up, and they're all like, where the hell is Superman? And then Clark shows up, and he's like, oh, hey, this is, everything I heard that happened. And by the way, this Rom guy is going to go heal everyone in the hospital. And Lois is like, that would take magic. And then Clark says, the only real magic is knowledge. Which makes zero fucking sense, but that's the episode. So there really doesn't seem to be any wrestlers or legitimate wrestling in this episode, but the wrestling that is there is fun in a 1950s way with the airplane spin and the grappling and a couple of good old-fashioned flips, but there is a lot of men pinching other men. But as an episode, I felt like it was kind of lacking because it's a wrestling episode with Superman, so you want to see Superman wrestle. Even if you can't wrestle as Superman, put on a mask and do it. You beat up everyone at the end. Why don't you fucking do that from the beginning? You can't even be hurt by the paralyzer, and you know this. So just get in the ring and help everyone out. I know it doesn't make for much of an episode, but it would have been really considerate of you. Anyway, I am RJ City. That was the Hollywood Squared Circle, and this has been a colossal waste of your time.
Guests of the RJ City Show, subscribe to his channel, follow him on social media, and buy his t-shirts at prowrestlingtees.com/RJ City.